Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's March 10th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented as always by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. And Matt, day 2 in the books of spring practice. We were out there yesterday. I keep wanting to report all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm just not seeing it yet. It's like it's very vanilla. There's very little offense installed. Clearly, they're just trying to do a few basic things right now and get a feel for the personnel. We spoke to Josh Gaddis after practice. That's one of the stories on the website today. And I asked him more than once, what's realistic for you? How much are you looking to install this spring? Didn't get an answer either time. And I think that's by design. I think he's feeling his way. I don't think he wants to install too much offense without being able to touch and feel the personnel, so to speak, and having eyeballed it. And so essentially, to sum it all up, what we're watching at practice is a lot of very vanilla plays, simple swing passes, quick passes to the tight end, an occasional fly route thrown in. I think we saw 1 or 2 of those today, but it is as vanilla as can be. And I got to assume it's by design for the benefit of both sides of the ball, just learning basic assignments.
It's interesting because there are a lot of different drills, a different energy, but I actually felt the first practice was cleaner than yesterday's practice. Yesterday's practice, there was multiple drop passes just right in guys' hands. It seemed like there wasn't as much attention to detail by the players. The coaches were still right on point and fixing everything, which I love to see. After the first practice, I gave it an A, and then someone asked me on the message boards what grade do I give to this last practice. I said I still give the coaching an A. I was being generous. I said I'll give the players a B+, but really it was more like a C+ or a B-. Yeah. The energy was there for the players. They didn't look great as a group. Do you disagree?
No, I don't disagree. It's clear that there's a lot of thinking going on. You're watching guys like Jacoby George, who maybe has as good a chance to be a elite wide receiver this year as anybody. Simple pass over the middle from Tyler Van Dyke. It just bounces right off his hands into the arms of Al Blades. We watched Frank Latson go deep and drop a ball that was perfectly thrown by Jake Garcia.
There was even weird stuff on defense, like Jafari Harvey. You can't sack a quarterback right now. There's no touch. You basically can't even tag a guy down. Somehow, despite that, he jumped off sides on one of the plays. There was just this attention to detail. Maybe you're right. Maybe they're just thinking too much and not just playing yet.
I just think there's no comfort level out there yet. I think the coaches are taking this first week to see just what they have. You can only watch so much film. You have to see all your players on the practice field, see how they run around, see what they're athletically capable of. I'm expecting them to go into the lab during spring break while the players are out partying on the beaches and stuff. I think the coaches are going to be in the lab morning till night. And I think we'll start seeing some change when they come back after spring practice. And but I kept asking Coach Gaddis about how much offense he's installing
you can see there's every pass with either a screen or a quick hitch. There was nothing, or a bomb. There was nothing else. It was like
very simple, very vanilla,
very simple.
So that tells me, like what I'm saying, that there's a lot of evaluation, just basic skill evaluation.
Right. They just want to see who can do what, who runs fast, who is physical. Yeah, exactly. 100% agree.
So,
which guess what? There's nothing wrong with that. They're in shorts and shells yesterday. And until you put on full pads, then you see a whole different level also. But really football's about just beating the guy in front of you at the end of the day, and you don't need any fancy plays to see that in the spring, right? So they're at least getting that done to some extent.
I think they'll get more done as the spring goes along.
Oh, yeah.
I think we've got a pretty good read on what's going on. But yeah, vanilla is the word, and so I know everyone's looking for us to come on the message boards with all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's just it's a reach right now. It's like I don't want to do it because I'm not really telling you anything of any significance because it's just not there. In fact, you know what the highlight of yesterday's practice was for me, Matt?
Talking to me on the sidelines?
Nope.
Oh, I can't imagine what it would be then.
Look what was parked right in front of the Schwartz Center. I don't know if you even ever came around that way. A Raising Cane's food truck. How about that? And chicken fingers, all types of junk food was being served out of there. And anybody that was an athletic department employee was allowed to go to the truck and get lunch. And I don't know if this was a gift from Mario Cristobal or Dan Radakovich or what, but this Raising Cane's food truck was really, really popular. In fact, I'm not going to say who because it just wouldn't be right for me to do so, but I even saw a member of the media who wasn't supposed to take any food from the truck sneak in line and get a boxed lunch from Raising Cane's. How about that? That's how appealing the Raising Cane's food truck was outside there. But I saw Charlie Strong come out of the building and get himself some lunch. A lot of the coaches saw DVD out there. I didn't see Mario, but I didn't linger too long. I didn't want anybody to think I was trying to steal some chicken fingers. So, but I just thought it was cool. Raising Cane's, big food truck parked out in front of the Schwartz Center. I don't know that. I mean, I know it's slim pickings, but that was one of my highlights.
Listen, do you remember the days? It wasn't that long ago, maybe 10 years ago, when they had just giant buckets of Gatorade that were on the practice field for the players to take after practice, and the media would be out there, and it would be this is in August. Media's out there dying. You know how us media members are.
Yeah, guilty as charged. I know what you're going to say. I'm guilty as charged. I used to sneak a bottle every now and then.
Right. Well, yeah. So some media, a couple of media members tried to take a bottle here, a bottle there, and they got yelled at. You can't. That's for the players. We want you to pass out and go to the hospital. It wasn't me, but there was media members that got yelled at for trying to take.
There were a couple of times I grabbed the Gatorade bottle. I admit it.
Yeah. And we actually had one of our interns actually remember she passed out on the practice field. She didn't have breakfast. They didn't have the Raising Cane's in those days apparently, and she had to go home.
Some of those early morning practices out of Green Tea, I'll tell you, the ones that start at 8 are hotter than the ones that start at 9:30. I like these ones that start at 9:30, 10 o'clock because the sun's already up in the sky. Yeah. When that sun is coming right above the horizon at Green Tree, right at you, man, that to me is hotter than any time during the day. But the good thing is guys seem to be in shape. We don't see anybody really struggling through practice or anything. Guys are running around pretty good. They're being challenged physically and a little bit in that regard. And we don't see any issues. The team looks good. We have a story on the website today with Zion Nelson. He looks better physically than he has at any time in his career.
I gotta tell you, I was a little surprised actually because not to interrupt, but I love interrupting you. But
par for the course.
Aaron Feld. For some reason, I always want to say Gus Feld because of Gus Felder. I wish Aaron Feld had a different last name to make it easier for me to remember because in my old age, it's hard to remember the first name last name combo. But I really thought over the last couple of months that he's been here, he was going to just rapidly try to put on weight in these guys. And in actuality, what he's been doing is leaning them down.
They're lean
and getting them down body fat. I mean, if you guys could see Henry Parrish and Jalen Knighton out there, they look like, I don't want to say skeletons because they're not skeletons, but they look tiny. And that's okay. If they're faster, quicker, can get through holes, whatever. There are some guys who do look bigger. To me, I'd say the guy who looks noticeably bigger is actually Elijah Arroyo, lower body-wise. And something I'll mention also.
He's playing tight end at 250.
Right. And he actually said, it's funny, he said he gained weight. And then he said he got bigger, and then he said, well, he's the same weight. But he did get bigger because he went from 9% body fat to 6.9% body fat. So
they're replacing body fat with muscle.
He looks bigger, lower body-wise especially. But what I found really interesting, and the only really major takeaway I had from practice yesterday, other than having a horrible flashback when Frank Ladson dropped a deep pass because he's wearing number 8. I don't even want to discuss that, okay? I was like, he should not wear number 8. I don't want to see number 8 ever drop another pass. That's another story. What I really liked yesterday at practice, and my major takeaway from practice, which I posted on the message board at the time, was in the past, forever that I can remember, in the first drills of practice, the tight ends would line up with the wide receivers and work on route running and getting on the same page with the quarterbacks, which is great. But what Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal and Stephen Field now have the tight ends doing is working with an offensive tackle group. So they split up the offensive linemen, whereas it used to just be one offensive line group all the way in the back of the practice field, just working for the first, 6 periods or whatever it is, 4 to 6 periods. Now they just have the interior alignment on the back of the practice field, and they move the tackles off to the right side with the tight ends to work on different types of skills they're going to need. The tight ends need to basically be another offensive tackle in this offense to some extent when there's a running play, which is brilliant. I don't know why past coaches didn't think of that also. It's not like the whole offensive line has to just work together, because when you think about it, interior linemen have much, much different skill sets and responsibilities in terms of pulling and the job they need to get done versus what the tackles do. So I love that they did that, and I think it's going to pay huge dividends, especially getting the tight ends to block like an offensive tackle and to work on the offensive tackles on more offensive tackle specific skill sets versus what you need to do at guard and center.
The one thing we do have to keep in mind, and Zion Nelson hasn't fallen into this category yet, but he has been put on notice by Alex Mirabal that it could happen. They are moving guys around between tackle and guard and things like that, trying to get an idea for what the capabilities are for each guy. So even though they're splitting up at times, certain guys might work with one group one day, another group another day. It'll just depend on how they decide to do it. But so we've got the story with Josh Gaddis talking about the overall picture on offense. We've got a story with Zion Nelson today on the website, and like I said, he looks really, really good. Says his knee's not bothering him anymore. He's healthier than he's been in a while, so that's a good outlook for Zion Nelson. And then we got stories with the two tight ends, Arroyo and Mallory. And Will Mallory really stood out to me. He's just so polished now, and you could tell he's older. He's been through a few years of the grind, and just comes across as very mature and very ready to be a big part of this offense.
What always amazes me about Will Mallory, and I've talked about this with other reporters, is if you watch Will Mallory walk down the street, you'd say this guy's the most unathletic guy I've ever seen. He's got like sort of wide hips, big butt. He walks pigeon-toed, almost with a limp. And then he runs like the wind. He's like a gazelle on the football field.
Very smooth.
It's a crazy transformation. He runs great routes. He's got soft hands. I mean, I've never seen a guy who, when he walks, like, you remember the old, who was it? There was that guy, something Brown. He weighed like 400 pounds. Remember him? And his knees would cave in, but he was on scholarship. What was his name?
Freeman.
Was it Freeman Brown? I think it was Freeman Brown, right? And his knees would cave in and almost knock knees. And he wasn't a terrible offensive lineman, and he could play a little bit. But I'm not going to compare him to that. But I'm just saying, like, there's a guy who, when you look at him, you think, oh, that guy will never be able to move or do this or do that. And then it's just, when you see him run, it's like, oh, okay, I didn't expect that one. So yeah, Will Mallory looks great. He had a great fingertip catch in the first practice. He's going to be a go-to threat in this offense. And the tight ends are super excited about this offense with Josh Gaddis, which I'm not quite sure they're going to get as many balls thrown their way or run as many routes as they did in the past. I think they're going to have a lot more run blocking and pass blocking responsibilities. But at the same time, I think there'll be a lot more 2 tight end sets, 12 personnel, things like that. So maybe at the end of the day, Will Mallory will still get as many targets. It's just there's going to be other tight ends playing and, that sort of thing, which will be interesting, right?
They'll get a lot of targets.
A lot, yeah, but a lot's going to depend on the receivers. If there's 4 amazing receivers, it's hard to put 2 tight ends in the game. But I don't think Miami's going to have that situation. I think they have such a good tight end room. And for Will Mallory to say it's the deepest, most talented top to bottom tight end room he's seen at Miami, that's since 1973 when he got here. So that says something.
All right. Before we go forward, our friends over at Life Wallet have produced a new commercial. This one's involving Miami baseball players. Let's take a look.
My name is Yohanny Morales, and I am Life Wallet. Hey, yo. Heads up.
It's a home run.
Normally I strike out all my everyone to knock it out of the park with Life Wallet. Life Wallet could save my life, and it could save yours too.
Life Wallet. Saving time, saving lives.
It's nice to see the baseball players get involved a little bit.
Okay. I'm not a fan of disembodied heads anywhere on my screen, but sure.
They get an A for creativity.
I mean, they may as well just have taken his head and hit his head with a bat and knocked that out of the ballpark. That would have been a great commercial to me. But I'm not I'm not a creative consultant for Life Wallet.
How about the guy on the message board that was like ripping me because I did an interview with John Ruiz about NIL. You know, this NIL thing is one of the biggest things that's happened to this program in a long time. I mean, Miami is one of the leaders in the country in NIL. NIL is the talk of the country. Where's it going? What's going to happen? What are they doing? And we cover everything. And if it's important to the program, we cover it. And I mean, I've done 3 interviews with John Ruiz in 3 months, and they've all been very, very good. He's very well spoken. And my feeling is if a couple of people don't want to watch him, just don't watch him. It's not, we cover everything. We don't discriminate. If it has to do with the Miami Hurricanes and it's pertinent, we cover it. So I got a kick out of the guy on the message boards at CaneSport.com who was kind of like needling me a little bit for doing too much NIL coverage. But anyway, all right, getting back to what's on the website today. We have a recruiting story on Senator Landon Hatchett from the state of Washington. He's been offered, and he will be visiting Miami in the summer. Matt, just a continuation of the 40, 50 offensive linemen now that we've identified that have been offered by Alex Mirabal. I'm sure there's about another 40 that have been offered that we have not yet identified, but he's very active in recruiting. He got himself a commitment this week. Now he's on the practice field with his guys. I hope they make Alex Mirabal available to us sometime soon, because I'd love to hear a little bit of what he has to say. So your thoughts in general on the O-line recruitment that we're watching.
Well, the interesting to me is the story this morning on Landon Hatchett. He's a super nice kid. He's he's going to come down. He's been down here before. He's super interested in Miami, obviously, and he's talking to Mirabal all the time. But what really I think is the most interesting part, it reminds me actually, I'll tell just a stupid story about myself. So, I went to sleepaway camp when I was a young kid, and this will relate back to Landon Hatchett, okay? Trust me. You're going to have to sit through this for another 40 seconds before I get back to Landon Hatchett and why it's relevant. And my parents always said, you have to send your grandparents a letter every week. So the dutiful grandson, first week at camp, my first time going to sleepaway camp, I write my grandparents a very nice letter. Dear Granny and Grandpa, that's what I call them. Dear Granny, Grandpa, blah, blah, having great time in camp. Food sucks, but whatever. And da-da-da-da-da. Shoot off the letter. I was, 10 years old, 11 years old. And, when you're that age, you always want to get a letter back, right? You're excited when the mail comes and you hear your name. They shout out your name. You go get your letter. So my first letter came about a week later, and it was from them. And I opened it up very excitedly. And, I should probably add that my grandmother taught in the New York City public school district for 60 years. And when I opened my letter and took it out, all it was the exact same letter I'd sent to her and her husband, but just with red marks and corrections throughout my entire letter. She corrected the letter I sent them and sent it back to me. So the reason that I relate that to Landon Hatchett is because Alex Mirabal is correcting Landon Hatchett based on Twitter highlights that Landon Hatchett's posting from his workouts and things like that. His form, his stats, whatever it is, that he's posting on Twitter. Landon Hatchett says when he posts anything, a huddle highlight, whatever, he immediately gets a text from Mirabal like, you need to change this, fix this. Here's what you're doing wrong, which is great because it builds a relationship. B, it shows him that this is a coach who can help him, and C, it reminds me of my grandmother. So it's a win-win-win.
Win-win all the way around.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I look forward to the day when we're able to sit down with Alex Mirabal and just see what makes him tick, see what he thinks of the O-lineman, his philosophy on recruiting, why he's got so many offers out, all those different things. It'll be interesting. All right, Matt. And then the basketball team springs into action today in New York at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. A surprise opponent, Boston College, has been like the Cinderella team of the ACC tournament so far. They upset Wake Forest yesterday to advance into today's game against Miami. And it's going to be 3 games in 3 days for Boston College, a rested Miami team, a better Miami team. I will be stunned if the Miami Hurricanes don't play well today in Brooklyn and land themselves a Friday date with, I'm pretty sure, I still think it'll be Duke. Right?
How can it not be Duke? Isn't Duke playing Syracuse now, or am I wrong?
Yeah, they're playing Syracuse, but Syracuse's best player might be suspended.
Yeah, Buddy Boeheim's their only player who's any. I mean, listen, my wife's a huge Syracuse fan.
Did you see what Buddy Boeheim did today?
Yeah, I guess he punched somebody.
He punched the kid. I mean, he thought he was being discreet. Are you kidding me? You're in the ACC tournament. They have more cameras than they ever have at any regular season game, and you think you're going to get away with punching a guy in the gut like that? I mean, just totally stupid, because Syracuse played unbelievable basketball today. Blew Florida State right out of the gym. I think the final score, they won by 30, 40 points.
Yeah.
And now they're going to have to go without their best player against Duke. They got no shot.
No shot, which is actually not so bad, because that Duke Miami game, that's the kind of game I'll watch. You know, I'm not that excited.
Man,
Duke Miami's gonna be great. That's gonna be great.
I came so close to booking a ticket to go up there for that. It's I got to be back Sunday for the camp, and I'm thinking like.
And there's a football practice on Friday.
Yeah, and there's a football practice on Friday. So
I can't handle that practice by myself, Gary. Look at me.
I know. I waited against those 2 things, and I said, nah, I can't go. But I really
have no coverage if you weren't there. We have no coverage of the practice on Friday. It'd be a nightmare.
I really did want to go see Coach K go against Coach L for the last time. I mean, I thought it would have been cool and fun. I would have written about it, and I'll still try to write about it. But I just decided against it. The fact that it's snowing up there right now a lot contributed to that. You know, It's like it's no fun getting around Manhattan when it's snowing and stuff. So anyway, the Canes play Boston College today. We expect them hopefully to win and then advance to a game against Duke on Friday night, which will be on ESPN, and give everybody something to watch on Friday night. So that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. We'll have coverage of the basketball game later on. Canes return to spring practice tomorrow, and we'll be talking about that tomorrow morning on Good Morning CaneSport, and obviously we'll be out there for that. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. We thank you for joining us today, and everybody have a great day. See you next time.